Welcome to Sober.Coffee, a weekly coffee chat sharing experience, strength, and hope for anyone on the sober road to recovery. You can download Sober.Coffee weekly on all podcast platforms and check us out on Instagram at Sober.Coffee Podcast and on Twitter at SoberCoffeePod. To learn more about us and to help support these sessions, visit online at Sober.Coffee. Here are your hosts, two guys on their own path to recovery, Mike and Glenn. Let's join them at the coffee shop.
Never know what today's going to deliver for you, do you?
You know what? I used to be intimidated by that, but as I've lived sobriety and I've really gained confidence, I think going down to alcoholic hell, my confidence went right to hell with it.
Right.
And I think, progressively got better, progressive sobriety, my confidence. I can walk into any situation and be okay.
Yeah.
And that's a superpower, man, because you know what? I'm not, so many people are intimidated going into whatever the situation is. And I just have the tools where I can just be me. And maybe I was intimidated before because I was a chameleon. I would go in a situation and try to measure everybody and say, oh, who do you want me to be? Who do you want me to be? Who do you want me to be?
And I'll be it. Right.
Yeah. And there's a lot of pressure in that. And when you just go as you and you're okay being you, a lot of peace in that, a lot of confidence.
Wasn't there a Michael Jordan thing where I like being me? Right? Wasn't that a Saturday Night Live sketch?
Do you like being you?
I love being me right now. I
awesome.
Didn't when I was out there drinking and drugging. I didn't like being
me.
Man,
because
I was made up.
Right.
I wasn't authentic.
Right. Man, there's some good lessons in that.
Yeah. Hey,
so what's going on, man? Good. I love being in the coffee shop with you.
Yeah, a couple quick things. We're at Audio Hive Production, which is glad to have Brian back.
Chicagoland.
Shout out to Bianca,
Go,
who did a great job
Thanks,
for
Bianca.
us. Yeah, but Brian's back. And,
Brian's cuter.
Yeah. Well, he's stronger. We figured out he ain't cuter. Anyway, glad to be here. Hey, table for three today.
I know, I love it. Let's just dive right in, man.
We got donuts and everything. We got a guest in the.
That's awesome. Live guest.
Hey, Mark, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good.
Welcome, Mark.
Good,
great to have you, brother.
So, Glenn, I think you maybe TikTok. You guys hooked up on TikTok. And
crazy how the world works, man.
Crazy how the world works, and we're glad you did because Mark is the author of a book called Suffer to Tougher. We'll talk about that. Just glad to have you here. I love the book, so I usually try and buy the book, and which you can get on his website. We'll talk about that in a minute. I usually try, if I'm having an author, and I try and read the book, right? And yours was an easy read. I just loved how I felt about myself after reading it. Let's just put it that way. It was practical and foundational, and it just reshifted my brain a little bit. So welcome, Mark. Welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
For having me, I should say.
Well, you got your awesome.
Having us.
We're looking
to dig in, man.
And you got gear on. You got Suffer to Tougher gear on, which is pretty cool.
I do.
You're fully branded with your Chicago White Sox hat.
Southsider, true and true.
There you go.
Right, beautiful. Love it.
This is my uniform.
So what brought you to author a book, Suffer to Tougher? Tell me a little bit about your journey.
Well, so I'm a drug addict and alcoholic in recovery. Mm-hmm. Okay,
like us.
I'm a dual diagnosis patient, so I do have a diagnosis of PTSD, general anxiety disorder, major depressive disorder. The diagnosis did not occur until I was in the weeds of my addictions. I never talked to a therapist. I kind of grew up in a household where it was man up, don't show your feelings, all that stuff.
Right. So can I jump in?
Yeah.
I mean, you're getting on a roll, which is awesome, but there's a lot of folks that don't understand what dual diagnosis is, right? I mean, for years I heard it. I'm like, well, that's another medical term. So that's like, because I was not dual, triple, quad. I had so much. Just like you started a flash roll, a bunch of stuff. I had a bunch of stuff, right? And that's looked at differently from the medical, psychological world, right? It's like, okay, it's not just alcohol, but I can almost tell you anybody with alcoholism has something else going on, right? So, but I just wanted to clarify that when you say dual diagnosis, that means, hey, I got alcoholism and then other underlying issues.
Right. I battle anxiety. I battle depression.
Yeah, but and the crazy part is, and I was just talking to somebody about this, is, I had, I don't know, maybe at one point 6 psychological diagnoses, including the S word.
Yep.
Schizo.
Yep. Yep.
And And I mean, I literally, I just want to point this out for people and maybe give people hope, right? Because all those added to my weight, added to the pressure, added to the, I'll never find a solution, man. They call me the S word, mild, by the way, just mild, but still. And at the end of the day, and they threw 11 meds on me, and all the doctors, their solution was dosage and time. Right? I was such a chemical experiment. I mean, I was getting electrical shocks down my arms. I mean, major Seroquel, 1,200 milligrams a day would put a horse out for a week.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, the average dose is 25 milligrams. I was taking 1,200, 1,250 a day. And then they counter it with this and counter it with that. At the end of the day, and I know what AA says about, you know, I'm not dogging it, but for me, every one of those doctors, they were wrong. Every one of those meds was wrong. All I needed was $1 and an AA program to show me a different way to live. All those diagnoses went. Now, people still think I'm weird. I'm not sure if that's a psychological diagnosis.
I like to think of you as unique.
I'm unique, right? But so I just want to, and sorry, Mark, you were really getting a roll, but we try to define things for folks, especially we have a lot of sober curious. They're just trying to figure stuff out. So that dual diagnosis means, hey, I'm dealing with alcoholism, I'm dealing with drugs, and I got some other, potentially underlying issues. But then at the end of the day, it's a chicken and the egg. You know, what's causing what?
Right.
Because a lot of times booze is causing a lot of those other side issues.
Right, exactly. And making you act like that.
I mean, that's 100% correct. And the thing about it is, it really doesn't need to be even drugs or alcohol. I mean, it could be gambling, it could be shopping, It could be hoarding,
Exactly.
It could be different sexual addictions and things like that. Mm-hmm. But typically, you know, that addictive behavior is driven by an underlying either diagnosed or undiagnosed mental health issue. And a lot of times it is undiagnosed because you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
You know, and I believe AA definitely helped me out a lot. Like my depression was situational depression. Mm-hmm. But, you know, AA is about living in a moment, making amends, right? Mm-hmm. And, that allowed me to come to grips with some of the things that I did in my past that allowed me to heal. You know, living in the moment, right? One day at a time.
Love that.
Definitely helped with my anxiety. Mm-hmm. You know, so I'm a completely different person through the AA program than I was back then. You know, but again, you don't know what you don't know, and you learn. And you know, through this journey, School of Hard Knocks, it's an education that you can't buy with any degree.
Right. So tell me a little bit about the old Mark, and what brought you to the transition moment of becoming the new Mark.
Well, I mean, I actually got married at a young age, 19. I was the sole income provider of a family of 6. I had 4 children. Got started in the insurance industry at the age of 19. Did 30 years in the insurance industry. Worked my way up the ranks, and became a manager on the south side of Chicago. Had a team of 30 sales reps underneath me. Was doing really well financially, but you know, always was an anxious person. Always was stressed out. I would get panic attacks speaking publicly. You know, I did not feel comfortable being in a room with the CEO of a Fortune 600 company. So for me to kind of ease the tension a little bit, you know, I'd have a couple drinks, and then I would kind of ease into the situation, and I would be comfortable talking to executive vice presidents and CEO, but I never really felt comfortable in my skin, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, so I did rely on alcohol as a self-medication, but because of that job and that career, and it was a new territory, the south side of Chicago, I really had no work-life balance. I mean, I was training a team of sales representatives, and then I had to go to like events for like the mayor's office of special events and different marketing events at night. So, I mean, I was working ridiculous hours. A lot of those social events did incorporate alcohol, you know, so you're drinking socially, being in a room with aldermen and things like that. Diet was terrible, put on a lot of weight. Exercise was non-existent, and I developed a neck and back issue. And when I developed a neck and back issue, I had 2 conflicting test results. The surgeon did not want to operate. He referred me to a pain management doctor down in Shorewood, not too far from here, and he introduced me to prescription pain pills. Now, hindsight looking back at it, he certainly overprescribed, ridiculously overprescribed. But I didn't know any better. I mean, I didn't know that a pain pill was an opiate. I didn't know that it rewired your brain.
When was this? Give me a frame of what year this is we're talking about.
2011, 2012.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, you're right. Opiates. That was
more free flowing back then.
yes.
I mean, just to put it in perspective, the very first visit that I had with that pain doctor, he prescribed 120 Norcos and 90 Flexerols with 4 refills. So he prescribed over 800.
Oh my gosh, that's a drug dealer.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right.
And that went on for a while.
I mean, I've gone through major surgery and they give me 30 mild pills. And I'm like, dude.
Right.
Yeah. So I was drinking heavily.
Sure.
At that particular time. And my diet was poor, but once I got introduced to those prescription pain pills, it was over. Because I realized if I could pop a couple of those, it can get me to where a couple hours of drinking can get me. In 15 minutes, I can get there. And I started taking them not as prescribed because I realized I was real chill on those things and allowed me to get through the stresses of life. It allowed me to make public presentations without panic attacks and things of that nature.
So it sounds like it was working for you. What went off the rails?
It always does for a while.
Using them not as prescribed.
Yeah.
And then your body builds up a tolerance, just like with alcohol. Right. And then it gets to the point where your body becomes physically dependent on it. Right. And you start running through your scripts before the end of the month. And my territory was the south side of Chicago. Right. So I started going to the streets to supplement. And in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, well, I actually have a medical ailment. Yeah. I'm being prescribed this prescription.
Yeah, totally. That's mental gymnastics.
I've seen this happen with more than you, where it's medically prescribed. They don't have enough. They turn to the streets. That's where things really get wacky because now you could end up dead just because you're looking for a little pain relief.
Yeah. And initially it was just buying the pills that the doctor was prescribing me. So I was putting them in the same prescription bottle.
Sure.
So nobody would really know the difference. My
Right.
wife wouldn't know the difference. Nobody around me would know the difference. But then it got to the point where my tolerance just built up where no matter how many of those particular pills, Norcos, I took, I was waking up sick every day. So you're buying stronger and stronger stuff. Now, I never did street stuff. I never did like street heroin or street fentanyl or anything like that because the way my brain worked, I was being prescribed medication. I had the financial means to buy.
Doing the street stuff's against the law.
Yeah, right?
I know.
I'm joking. That's where I
Yeah.
drew the line because I'm like, what's funny is I obliterated myself. And I had a couple of pain pill issues with surgeries and stuff, but it just didn't, for me, it didn't have the same effect. But in my mind, I could obliterate myself with alcohol, but I wouldn't do street drugs because, oh my gosh, what if I got drug tested at work? Mm-hmm. And my mind was able to draw that line so succinctly. But
and Mark was the boss. He'd have to prescribe his own drug test. Okay, everyone's getting random drug
Right.
test. Mark, step in line first, right?
Yeah.
Kind of wacky. So tell me about your wake up moment. Tell me what caused you to flip the switch.
It really took me down a destructive path. At the end of the day, I was a fentanyl addict, but I was actually doing fentanyl patches. So again, prescription patches that they would give cancer patients at the end of life. And it'd be transdermal. They would put them on their body. I would put those in my mouth and chew them like a piece of gum and go through like 3 or 4 of them in a day. Where a cancer patient's supposed to have them on their body and it's supposed to give them like 36 hours of pain relief, So where did it lead me to?
So pretty creative. I never thought about chewing those up and swallowing them.
All
Pretty
right,
creative.
We always get creative.
I know, absolutely. Let me get it quicker, faster, stronger.
Exactly. Ended up getting divorced after 25 years of marriage. My wife left me. I ended up getting into a car accident not too far from here, believe it or not, where I woke up on a ventilator with a major head injury, multiple overdoses, multiple visits to treatment. But my worst overdose would have been July of 2020, where I pretty much was found dead on my parents' kitchen floor because my divorce was going on and I was staying with them at that particular time. And the first responders came in. They had to Narcan me a couple times. I woke up in intensive care, and I was told that my kidneys and liver had sustained some damage, but if they can get the functions under control, because of the condition I was found in, they classified it as a suicide attempt because of the amount of alcohol and drugs found in my system. So my mom signed a form to send me down to psychiatric care, and I really didn't want to go down to psychiatric care.
That's a tough floor to be on.
Fighting security guards in my room in intensive care. I probably should have been arrested. Psychiatrist came in the room, said, no matter what you do, no matter what you try, you're going down there. So my thought process was, I'm going to go down there and be a good soldier, if you will, for a couple of days. Try to get out as quick as possible.
Let them hear what they want to hear.
Yeah.
Right.
And then really, honestly, at that point, go home, do more drugs, and die. Right. I really didn't see any way out of it. And by the grace of God, the third day that I was down there, an organization called NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, sent in a speaker to the hospital to share his story, his live life experience. And would you believe he was an African-American gentleman from the south side of Chicago, and he was a heroin addict in recovery. Mm. And when he shared his story was ridiculous compared to mine. I mean, a lot more intense versus mine. And when I looked at him, I'm like, this guy doesn't look like he lived that life. I mean, so my ignorance was back then. He doesn't look like a drug addict or a drug addict in recovery. I mean, he was physically fit. He was dressed nice. It was the middle of his workday. He was sharing his story. And at this point, everybody around me was dying that I knew that was living this lifestyle. I mean, a lot of people, died from overdoses or suicides. So I walked up to him afterwards and asked him a couple questions. And, he hit me with a couple truisms, if you will. And he convinced me right then and there to go to treatment for the last time. And that day that I overdosed in July of 2020 was the last day that I ever drank or did drugs.
That's unbelievable. And I'm telling you, I'm sitting across the table from a guy who looks put together, clear eyes, great smile, wearing some good branded garb. You look like you got it all together. There's no description of the recovering alcoholic, right? I mean, it's non-discriminatory. It turned all of us into that scrape or scratcher for the next drug drink,
Yeah.
And we're so not that now. The transformation is unbelievable. Unbelievable. I mean, to put all that in your past, for that to be your last day, it's amazing because it sounded to me like we were on the same path. That was my identity, self-identity. I'm going to die from this.
Yeah.
I'm okay with it.
That's how I felt too.
Yeah.
I really didn't see a way out. And, that was during COVID, obviously. So COVID actually helped me.
Sober.
But it helped me.
Yeah, okay, for you it did, right?
But it did not help the world.
Right.
So I knew, when I talked to that gentleman, he told me, you get your life straight, you got to pay it forward. You got to do what I do. Mm-hmm. So I knew I wanted to eventually start speaking at hospitals, and I did set up a relationship with that NAMI.
Wait, didn't you tell me you have a fear of speaking in front of people? Now that's your go-to plan, to go speak in front of people?
Here's the funny part about it. I have spoken in front of Midwestern University School of Psychology, sharing my story, and my heart doesn't skip a beat.
Yeah.
And I don't get a panic attack.
Yeah.
So, awesome. my fear,
amazing.
Has turned into tremendous opportunity. And there's no other way to explain it except it's a God thing, right?
It's a God thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You came in. So at what point since 2020 till today did you decide to write this book, Suffer to Tougher?
So what happened got sober in 2020. I wanted to be about a year sober before I started speaking at hospitals.
Smart.
And doing different things in the community.
Smart.
And in May of 2021, unbeknownst to me, my cousin drank herself to death during COVID. Mm-hmm. And, and she had no idea the life that I lived, and I had no idea the path that she was going down. Because just like we deal with shame and guilt, our family members deal with shame and guilt, mm-hmm. So, my dad and her dad are brothers, and my dad, I guess, never shared with his siblings the path that I went down, and he certainly wasn't sharing the path that his daughter was going down. And I found out 13 days before she passed away that she was in Palos Hospital, and I went there, and I spent about 3 hours with her and shared everything that I went through, and she couldn't believe it, but unfortunately it was too little too late. So I remember driving home from her services in May of 2021, so I was just shy of a year sober. I can't keep this a secret anymore. So I started being a little more open, honest, and transparent on social media. And I didn't come out and say I'm a drug addict and alcoholic and recover, but you can read between the lines.
Oh, absolutely. Those that know.
Exactly. And I guess what shocked me was how many people started reaching out for help and guidance. Yep. People I went to high school with, people that I work with the insurance industry, many, many years ago, past acquaintances and so forth. And that really got me feeling really comfortable in my own skin, and the shame and guilt went away because I realized this is everyday stuff. I mean, this is everyday America. So, I started speaking at the hospitals with NAMI. I started helping out with support groups. I have chaired a number of AA meetings in the western suburbs as well, because I do believe in AA and the traditional 12-step program. So I was doing all this stuff, but I was getting back into the insurance industry because I lost that job. Okay. Sure. And then COVID happened, so everything was kind of shut down.
Changed.
Yeah.
Right.
So I started, and I had opportunities to get back into management in the insurance industry, but, I valued my work-life balance. I view the world differently now in sobriety. So I didn't want anything to do with it. I wanted to work during the day and volunteer at night and speak at the hospitals at night.
That's awesome.
And share stuff like on Facebook and try to give some guidance and help to some people in need, because there were a number of people that stepped up for me, and I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for those individuals. So I kind of wanted to pay it forward. And it just got to the point literally where I was doing insurance, where I literally was getting like 8 to 10 phone calls a day or texts per day from people asking for help with alcoholism, drugs, mental health, whatever it might be. And I got reacquainted with the gentleman I went to high school with, Kelsey.
It's Kelsey?
Yeah. Because I actually helped a good friend of his get sober. And he kept telling me, you need to talk to Kelsey. And just a little backdrop. Kelsey and I went to high school together. His parents, his mom and his stepdad, both died from alcoholism. He never drank, but he was an overeater. He ate his feelings. So he was very overweight in high school. And he completely transformed his body, became a fitness coach and nutrition coach, in the far western suburbs. And my buddy kept telling me, he goes, everything that you talk, everything that you preach is exactly what he preaches with his, with his clients. And I'm like, well, that's great. And he hit me one day, he goes, he's a fitness coach. And I go, we talking about the same guy? Because the same guy I knew in high school was very overweight. Okay. He's like, oh, he completely transformed his body. So he connected us. And we started talking about mental health. We started talking about various addictions. I'm coming from the drugs and alcohol. He's coming from the eating side. And truthfully, a lot of his daily rituals or disciplines that he preaches with his clients are exactly what I preach, in addition to people going to AA, but, daily rituals outside of AA to stay sober and keep your mental health in check. So we started talking, and I started explaining to him about how many people are reaching out to me for drugs and alcohol. Well, he's got a lot of people reaching out to him because of overeating, because they're eating their feelings. And one thing came to another, and we ended up writing this book. The book was a quick project. It was last year, April, May of last year. We wrote it. It came out in July. The best example I can give to you is if you're a music fan, they say the best albums are quick projects.
Yes, that's right.
They just
put the
write
song
themselves.
40 by U2. We just need a song to need a song to fill the album. It's best stuff. Yep.
They just kind of write themselves,
that's right?
The book basically wrote themselves. We did it by Zoom because we were living kind of far away from each other. I would send him ideas. He would send me ideas. We put it together, and then the journey started.
So here's the thing I could say about the book, what I like about it. It's not a bunch of words. It's a bunch of practical tools and suggestions to reset your mental approach to being tougher, right? I mean, maybe that's wrong, but that's what it's not a novel. It's a workbook.
It's absolutely a workbook.
It's a workbook. And give me that back for 1 second. So I want to shout out to who's not here with us is Kelsey Dunbar.
Correct.
So Kelsey and Mark, say your last name.
Rogala.
A little bit Italian, a little bit?
A little bit.
All right,
yep.
Beautiful. And it's called Suffer to Tougher. It's from rock bottom to real strength. And I liked it. I appreciated how it was, again, played a reset in my life.
It's designed to be conversational, like you're talking to somebody that's been in it, and hopefully you felt that way. And it is an easy read because it's all the stuff that I've taken
pretty
and put it in English.
Sense stuff, right? It's just a good, gentle reminder of what we need to be doing.
It's how I had to process it, so I put it in English as opposed to all the medical terms that doctors and psychiatrists are actually going to put.
So I know you address this in the book. Who's this written for? And I know the way you did it in the book was you said for people who ask these kind of questions. I love that. But who do you recommend is the buyer reader of this book?
It was designed for people that struggle with a form of addiction with underlying mental health.
Okay.
Okay. However, you can basically put it in the self-help category because we have one gentleman we went to high school with that struggled real bad with diabetes and started implementing some of those same concepts in the book, and he's off of all diabetes medications, and he's down about 100 pounds.
Wow, isn't that something?
It's all about mind-body rhythm.
Yeah.
Mindset resets, positive affirmations, glass half full versus half empty. Obviously that's going to get your serotonin and your dopamine levels elevated in your brain naturally. The body really is about eating your food as medicine, not for pleasure, as well as just getting your body active. And then the rhythm is just daily rituals or daily disciplines that you do on a daily basis to drive your recovery, whatever you're recovering from. So really basic. I would consider it self-help. The feedback has been phenomenal. It did win the Los Angeles Tribune critically acclaimed bestseller, which I'm very proud of. I don't even know how the hell they found out about it. I really don't.
Yeah.
Because we're just two local guys in the Midwest. But, that was special for the simple reason there's a panel that actually has to read the book and they vote. So it's not just based off of numbers. It's about the content of the book.
That's great.
And the fact that it won that, and we got a big award with that. That was cool. But like I told the lady when she was interviewing us, I never wanted to be an author. Never set out to be an author. It was never a goal of mine. So
I
when
never
she
want to
said,
be a podcaster.
yeah. So when she's like,
look at us now.
she's like, what does this mean to you? And I told her straight up, I'm like, really, what it means to me is if this falls in the hands of one person and it helps them get their life straight and it saves their life, it's all the world. That's what it means to me.
Turns your mess into a message.
Exactly.
That's awesome. So what do you tell the guy, talk right to him, the guy who's a hot mess right now, right? He's swallowing, he's gulping. He needs a change. What's your advice for him? What's the next specific action item that he needs to take to have hope?
You talking about post-treatment or before treatment or
before treatment? He's just listening to this. He's in one, right? He doesn't like the way he's living. He's taking pills that were prescribed to him. He's over medicating. He's over drinking. He's over his head. What do you tell him?
Check your ego at the door.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay to ask for help.
Mm-hmm.
Took an army of individuals for me to get to where I'm at today. Make sure you talk to a medical professional.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure you get active in support groups like AA or
whatever.
NAMI support groups or
That's
what
right.
have you. And then we got to focus on progress over perfection, and we're going to have to make changes with what you're doing on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm. So do you help coach people then?
We do.
Okay.
We do.
So what's your website?
SufferToTougher.org.
That's pretty simple.
Real
Suffer to
simple.
Tougher.
Yep.
Okay.
And our email address is suffertotougher@gmail.com.
Okay. And .com or .org?
.com.
.com.
Yep.
Okay. So
Oh, wait. Time out.
The website's .org.
Yeah, .org.
okay, the website
Yep.
is .org. We're gonna we'll have a link to that, and that's where they can buy your book too, right? It's going right to your
Correct.
website.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yep.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, we actually also have a children's book too, designed for like kids age 8 to 14. Because when we actually were doing book signings in the western suburbs, we were in Downers Grove, and a group of school teachers actually heard us speak about this book. And one of the school teachers came up to me and whispered in my ear that she lost her younger sister to alcoholism earlier last year, because this would have been like August of last year. Mm-hmm. And she says, you really need to write a book to the younger individuals, addressing, bullying and divorce in the household,
Wow.
because a lot of that stuff is leading towards, some destructive behavior at very young ages. So we took that seriously, but then I was also doing some volunteer work at the crisis department that opened up in September in Wheaton, right next to the courthouse over there. And what shocked me was the youth that were coming in. I'm talking like kids under the age of 10 struggling.
Does not discriminate.
Yeah, so we actually have a book that's geared towards children. Okay, it's called You're Not Broken. That's on the website as well.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then we actually got a complete nutrition guide as well. I made that comment earlier about eating your food as medicine, not for pleasure. And the actual nutrition guide gets into different foods and different dietary ways that you can actually get your brain chemistry elevated just through diet by itself.
So Oreos, Doritos,
Food
not
is
a good
fuel.
diet?
Not good.
No,
Not
Mikey,
fueling
stop.
my system?
Mikey, stop
I
eating.
don't
Not
know.
good.
Stop eating those Oreos.
I
No,
don't know.
food
I
is
don't know. Gotta
actual
have that
fuel,
Oreo.
man. And I'll tell you what, you can change your world
Yeah.
with the right food.
Yeah.
You know, you really can. So that's great.
I mean, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no. Last thing before we send you off, let's dedicate this episode to your cousin. What was her name?
Beth.
Beth. Let's
Yeah.
dedicate this because I love what you're doing. She was going out the door. Now you're trying to get people coming in the door, and you're trying to get to them before they have a sad ending. And I really appreciate you and your heart for the next hurting individuals.
Yeah.
So thanks for coming in, man. Great to meet you. Suffer the tougher.
Suffer the tougher.
Appreciate that.
Come
Thank you
back
so
and
much.
keep us updated, man.
I
Thanks.
will.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
All right,
Appreciate
awesome.
it, man.
All right.
Thanks for joining us for today's coffee chat. To contact the show, email us at podcast@Sober.Coffee. If you need immediate help, the AA hotline is 800-839-1686. The National Suicide Prevention Hotline is 800-273-8255. Remember, Mike and Glenn are sharing their own journey on the path to recovery. Any suggestions, medical or otherwise, are their own experiences and should not be viewed as professional advice. See you next week, and remember, there is a solution.